Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Long time no see. Today, let's say something political. Currently, when we talk about economics, one of the most important phrases we say could be property rights. But did you know that property rights were the foundation for different institutions? Today, let's see why. Actually, this big topic can be divided into different subtopics, and we can use the subtopics to prove this conclusion. The first one is about our laws. Laws can be simply divided into three parts. We have criminal laws, administrative laws, and our civil laws. When we see civil laws, almost all the items are property related. Maybe they do not talk about money directly, but more or less they will say something about property and our survival resources that were owned by us, especially law items regarding marriage, employment, and family. Apart from civil laws, the second thing I want to talk about is constitution. Regardless of nations or countries, constitutions will not talk about civil issues. Instead, it talks about the right or the power of the government. Very long time ago, we had property rights already because of our neighbor. We did our work and we gained some survival resources. Of course, because of human nature, we would always expect the things we had belonged to us only. So when people felt that their property right needed to be protected, they would establish a constitution to limit government's rights and government's behavior because they do not want the government to occupy their own resources without explanation or proper reasons. And when it was really necessary for people to pay tax or to donate some resources to the public, the topic needed to be discussed in public. And of course, representatives will vote for the final plan. Those representatives represented normal citizens' benefits. And this structure, I guess, it appeared in Rome and Greece a long time ago. This is the reason why these two places were the democracy and also democratic institution foundation. Many people would say that constitution is the base and the civil issues or civil laws were based on constitution. But personally, I do not agree because constitution was made by citizens. So civil issues always come the first. The third point, I would like to say something about old Rome and old Greece. Actually, a long time ago, people there didn't have much definition of nations or countries. But people gathered together because they needed to rely on each other and survive. If they do not live together, they cannot face the disasters or some urgent situations. When people lived together, there were villages and communities. These organizations were actually the rudiments of our current nations and countries. So when people were living together, sometimes they needed to take some of their personal resources to achieve something together. And when people were taking their resources out, of course, they would expect to take their resources as least as possible so that they can keep more private things with them. And every time when they were discussing, there were negotiations. So after thousands of negotiations, democratic institution was built. The fourth point is also interesting. I would like to say something about US independence history. Actually, when UK colonists arrived in North America the very first time, they never thought about being independent. All of them were very proud of being a British citizen. However, one day, the government from UK said that you guys needed to give up the land. The land never belonged to you guys. Actually, the land belonged to the government. And when British colonists heard that, they thought their property rights were violated by the government. That's why they needed some explanation. But the explanation from the government was because you guys did not have any representatives in our country. That's why you did not belong to this country. When colonists heard that, WTH are you talking about? If you say we never belonged to this country, then we don't have to be here. Let's be independent. Let's fight for it. This is the history of US Independence Day. Currently, US citizens are still celebrating this festival nationally. I guess it was a good thing because people there fought for their own rights. Last but not least, let's move our vision from North America to China. China was so different because property rights, especially private property rights, this concept almost barely existed in China before. So, in different dynasties, no matter which dynasty and no matter how good a dynasty was, education in old time China was never free. Most people did not have enough money to survive, so only rich people they can afford kids' school fee. So most people would just stay at their houses and do farming work. And more or less we can get food from our cultivating, of course, but we never owned our land. The land always belonged to the emperor. So every time when people get fruit from their farms, they still needed to hand in a lot. They only have very little food. So the property rights never existed in China. That's why in the past we do not have any democracy. Though currently we still lack democracy, but the recent 30 years, because China opened its door to the world and the US also allowed us to enter WTO, that's why we began to have the concept of property rights. But compared to Western society, we still have a long way to go. That's all for my sharing for today. I hope you guys loved today's content and find today's video useful or informative. If you have any suggestions, welcome. Just leave your comments. Keep your subscription and I will see you next time in my next episode.